Alrighty, hello everyone, my name is Liam and welcome to part 3 of Liam's only 58 ball games of all time. In this one we'll be doing number 30 down to 21. So to kick things off, we have Betrayal at House on the Hill is number 30. Betrayal at the House on the Hill, you work together as a team for a little bit to explore a haunted house. Well, your characters don't know that it's haunted when they go into it. But you explore a haunted house. Every time you go through a door, you flip over a tile, so the house randomly generates as you play. You reveal items, you reveal like events to lower or increase or lower your skills as you go. And then at some point, you trigger the haunt. And basically in each edition, I think each edition has different haunts, but in each edition there's about 50 haunts, and basically either you or someone else you're playing with or the game itself will become evil, the traitor, and you'll have different win conditions based on the haunt. So you ends up being that you're playing haunt 27, which is about, the one I remember is a bird that comes and picks up the house and flies away with the house, and you need to find parachutes to jump out or something. But there's like zombies and werewolves and that sort of thing. And yeah, so the good team will have various win conditions, and the traitor, whether it's a person or the game, will have a win condition, and you play it out to see who wins or loses. It's good for me. Betrayal at the House on the Hill is one that gets a lot of hype, but for me is like, as a good game, it's like 6, 7 out of 10 at best. It's a very average game for me. I find that depending on what the circumstances are when the haunt triggers, it can be either very, very hard for one team to win. So sometimes it will be very hard for the traitor to win, or very hard for the good team to win, depending on what the circumstances are when the haunt triggers. So if the haunt triggers really, really early and you haven't explored much of the house, you might be quite claustrophobic in terms of there's not much space to move and escape if the traitor is dangerous physically, because there's just not many places to move. You might not have found many items yet to fight the traitor. Or it could be flipped on the other side. Perhaps there's too much space, and the good team have got too many items that the traitor just can't overcome it, and they just, it's very hard to win for them. So it's a fun concept. I was introduced to me by some of my friends, and we had a great time playing with my friends. So there's a bit of nostalgia there for us. But yeah, in terms of how good of a game is it, just because of how unbalanced it can happen to be at the time, depending on what the circumstances of the game are, it's like a 6, 7 out of 10 game for me. So Betrayal at the House on the Hill is number 30. Alright, 29 is the first legacy game on this list, and I struggled for a while to decide if I wanted to include legacy games on this list, purely because it's hard to gauge their longevity, especially if you finished one. So how does a legacy game that you finished stack up to a game that you can just play over and over and over again? So that's why I struggled to decide to put them on this list or not, but in the end I have. So 29 is Pandemic Legacy Season 0. And I decided to split up the Pandemic Legacy seasons into different ones just because they all had very different experiences so far. So Season 0 is the lowest of the 3. The other 2 will be appearing on this list at some point. Season 0 is lowest of the 3, not because I think it's the worst. And in some ways it's possibly second best, maybe, I think. I just haven't finished it. So we played Season 1 and 2. And by the time Season 0 got out, I bought it and we got it because, well, it's another Pandemic Legacy. Why wouldn't we try it? Why wouldn't we play it? But by the time we got around to it, I think we were sort of kind of half done with Pandemic. it had lost its novelty value. So it was harder to get the urge to finish it. So I think I mainly played this one with my mother, and we got about halfway through. We'll probably finish it at some point, I hope. But yeah, it's just lowest on the list out of the Pandemic Legacies, just because we haven't finished it. But mechanically, it's very fun. It's less serious and stressful as the other two. If things go wrong, it's not as dire as in the other ones. So it's sort of like a fun... So yeah, out of the three, it's probably like the funnest of the Pandemic Legacy. And yeah, but we just haven't finished it. So that's why it's down in 29. 28 is another party game, Monikers. There you go, Monikers. Monikers is like a variant on charades, in a way. Everyone gets dealt 10 cards and picks like 5 of them to go into a combined deck. They have various words or phrases on them. Some of them are funny, some of them are crude, some of them are adult. They all go into combined deck. You have teams, however many teams you want to have. 2 or 3 is generally how it goes. And the 3 rounds, or 3 official rounds. The first one is you need to get your team to guess what's on the card without saying the actual name of the card itself. So you can say anything you like. You just can't say the actual name of the card, so like Taboo. And then you keep passing that deck around until the deck's empty and everyone between all the teams has guessed all the cards. And then you put them back into the same deck, shuffle them again, and then you do the exact same thing with round 2, but you can only say 1 word. You do that, and then you shuffle them back in and do the 3rd round, whereas you have to act it out, you can't speak. So it's kind of like a variant and a round-based version of charades and Taboo combined. The joy out of Monikers comes because you're using the exact same deck every time. So even though there's a big deck in here of... I don't know how many cards are in here. Looks like there's hundreds in there, surely. But because you're only playing with 50 at a time, and you're playing with the exact... or 50 or so cards at the exact same time, and you're reusing the same deck, you develop like in-jokes throughout the course of a single game. So the first round's funny because of what someone might say, and then the second round you start using the in-joke from the first round to help guess the second round. And by the time you get to the 3rd round, what you're choosing to act out might not be what's on the card. It might be what in-jokes have come up during the first 2 rounds. So it's a bit of a funny... It's like a legacy version of Taboo and charades. And it's great fun. You can have a lot of belly laughter moments and a lot of laughing, and it's a great party game, so definitely pick it up. 27 is another party game, and I think it might be the last one. I'm not sure if this is the last party game on the list, but we'll find out in due course. 27 is Anomia. Anomia is like... I'm literally forgetting the word. That's part of the game. You have a deck of cards in the middle. You one by one flip over a card. It has a symbol on it and a category. If at any point you flip over the exact same symbol as what is currently visible in front of someone else, you two have a battle or a face-off. And so if we both flip over I can't remember what the symbols are. What's on here? A yellow circle. If we both flip over a yellow circle, I have to guess what's on the other person's category. No, I have to say something in the other person's category. So it might be bird species, and they have to guess countries in Africa. And whoever says something of that category on the other person's card first wins that card. And whoever at the end of the game has the most cards, has the most points, and they win. It sounds very simple. It is very, very hard. You think it'd be easy to think of a bird species, but in the heat of the moment, you forget. And that's what anomia means, I believe. I believe the word anomia means like forgetting the word for something. So that's part of the fun, is you flip over the cards, and you're both struggling to think of something very easy, but eventually someone gets there. And it's a lot of fun. You have a lot of laughter at people's struggle to think of something, and also some of the words that they come up with. You think, oh, that the most obvious answer is pelicans or crows, but they've said the golden bush tucker snout. as the bird and or something. A lot of fun, but I think that's the last party game on the list. So, but we'll see if there's any more. So 27 was Anomia. All right, 26 is a BGA only game, and that is the Castles of Burgundy. Castles of Burgundy is, I believe it's a big game when you have it for real, but I don't own it for real. In terms of table space, basically you get a board each of a big old octagon or hexagon with different coloured spaces on them with different die values, so 1 to 6 of a dice. There are different tiles to draw. So if I roll a 3, I can spend the 3 to draw a tile from the 3 shop and put it on the board on a 3 space or something. You spend the die to get the tiles and then put them on various points of the board. And however well you put them on the board, you generate points, and whoever has the most points wins. There's a lot of strategy behind it. There's a lot of thinking that goes into it. It's good. It's a good type of strategy. The game itself doesn't excite me, I would say, but when I'm playing it, you do get into it. You do get competitive, and you do go, "Wow, this is a really well thought out mechanical game." A little bit of luck with dice turning up at the right time at the right values. A bit like Catan in terms of luck, but not so random. There's a bit more choice you have with what to do with the dice value, so it's not as random. But yeah, it doesn't excite me, but when I'm playing it, I do get into it. So 26 is the Castles of Burgundy. 25 is another BGA game too, and that is Obsession. I don't own Obsession, but I've played it a fair few times on BGA. Again, introduced to me by a friend, and in looking at it, it doesn't look that exciting. When someone explains to you what it is, it doesn't sound exciting either. But when you play it, there's just something special about it. I don't know what it is. All you're doing is drawing tiles, like sort of worker placement. You use workers and draw tiles to expand your household estate. So you might buy with money, you might buy a billiards room, or the stables, or a dining room. And then on those tiles you'll generate people, or gentry, or reputation, or money. And you basically use workers to build up your estate. You have objective cards as well. Some are like, have X amount of servants, have these exact tiles on your board. And again, it doesn't sound exciting, but like Castles of Burgundy, when you're playing it, it just you get hooked. You get hooked, and there's a bit of fun role playing in there if you want to. You can role play being a fancy nobleman, and you're winning the favor of the lovely, what's her name? There's 2 of them. There's 2 like top priority bachelors or bachelorettes. And one of the big objectives is winning their favor. So there's a bit of fun role play in there as well. I can't remember the names though. Obsession is good fun game. I don't own it, so that's not why it's any higher. But yeah, 25. That was 25. Obsession. All right, 24 is a biggish game, and that is Eldritch Horror. Eldritch Horror is a cooperative game. And it's quite big, and it takes a while, generally like 4 hours or so. You can play it by yourself if you like. I'm not really a solo gamer, so I don't. But you can play it by yourself if you like. Basically, it's a big old... I don't know what genre you would call it. It's in the Lovecraftian Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu Lovecraftian universe. The Eldritch sort of horror universe. I don't know what mechanical genre you'd give it, but basically you have a character with different skills. You can acquire items along the way, spells, so you have different abilities, and the goal is to defeat a great one. A great one in the Cthulhu Lovecraftian world is like the mightiest of the gods, and the goal is to defeat them by completing various objectives along the way. And to do that, along the way, you move around the world map, triggering and solving various encounters. So you might have an encounter in a city, or an encounter in a forest, or an expedition to the Amazon. So what's great about this is there is a great variety of what you can do to achieve the end goal of defeating the Great One. It's not just one deck of cards with encounters. There's about 8 different types of decks with different themed encounters, and on each one there's different encounters for different circumstances. So there's just a great variety and replayability in the encounters themselves. There's great replayability in the amount of characters there are. There's like 20 of them. There's replayability in the items you pick up along the way. And there's I don't have any expansions for it, but there's like 10 or so expansions for this. So it's a big old game with a lot of replayability and different experiences that you can have. It's just not any higher on the list because we don't play it that often. It's a big commitment to get out. I would only ever probably play it with a particular group of friends I've got. And we just don't get together that often. And if we do, we will probably pick something else. Maybe we'll pick this one again in the future. I hope so. Because I do enjoy it when I play it. It just doesn't get much playtime. So there we go, that's 20... so yeah, there we go, that's 24, Eldritch Horror. Alright, 23 is purely this high on the list because of nostalgia value. And that is base Pandemic. Just normal Pandemic. So if you've been following these videos, you'll mention that I have like 2 eras of board gaming. Monopoly, Pictionary, Game of Life. And then the second era is after I purchased Catan for the first time. I brought home Catan, and it actually intrigued some of the people in my family that didn't play the board games we were playing, and they started playing board games. Anyway, so I got Catan, and then I think I got Pandemic. Maybe Ticket to Ride, but this was either second or third in this sort of like second era of board gaming for us. So we've had this one for ages, and it was great fun. It got my mother more into board gaming than she used to be, so that means a lot to me too, because now she loves board games with us as well. And this was one of the ones that helped her get into it. So it means a lot to me. Never probably play it again. I played it a couple times recently at a friend's wedding. One of them brought on with it, and we played it, and I enjoyed it. But it's one of those ones that was... We've played through the Pandemic Legacies. We're just sort of done with Pandemic. As like a family. We're just sort of done with Pandemic. It's still a great game mechanically. It's still... The parts that excited me about it at first are still great. We're just sort of done with Pandemic, and that's why it's high on the list for nostalgia, but not any higher just because we're done with it, and that's fine. That's fine. Sometimes you're just done with games. There you go. Pandemic. Alright, 22 is... I lied before. I said there were no more party games, but this one kind of is. Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. This is a great little, as I say, party game, because you can do it with like up to 8 people or something. You basically set out an array of objects, like murder weapons and clues in front of you, and everyone else has them as well. Someone randomly gets given the role of being the murderer. Someone randomly gets given the role of being the rest of you are investigators, I think. But the point is, you have to successfully, as a team, accuse the correct murderer of using the correct weapon and clue. So basically, that they open their eyes, and I can't remember how it mechanically runs, but basically the murderer picks one of their clues and one of the murder weapons, and they have to deflect the rest of the players from ever suspecting that it was them, and with that clue, with that object. And now I remember there is a player that is the sort of like from Mysterium, the ghost, or in this one, I can't remember what they're called, the investigator, the something. And without speaking, they point the rest of the players to the right one, the right answer, by putting these bullets on these various categories on cards. So it might put a bullet on the gym, or the murder was gruesome or something, and the motive was greed or something. And based off those one-word clues that you can't speak, but you just point to on these cards, you're trying to hint the rest of the players to point to the right murderer with the right clue and the right object. Anyway, it's shortish and fun. Again, one of those games where it's fun to deflect and be the murderer and go, oh, no, it's obviously them because of this reason. So it's a very social game and a lot of fun. It's a good time. So that's Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. Alright, 21, last one for this video is Camel Up, and I have the older edition of Camel Up. There's a new edition with different artwork and fancier components. Basically, you're betting on a camel race. So there's a race of camels around a lap of a track. We actually normally play with 2 laps because it just works out to be a bit more exciting. So camels are going to race around the track based off how dice come out of a pyramid. The pyramid in the first edition is made of cardboard, but I believe in the newer edition it's made of plastic, so it's a bit more sturdier. But depending what order the dice come out, so there's a blue camel, there's a green camel, a yellow camel, an orange camel, and a white camel. Depending on the order they come out, they land on top of each other, the camels. And you can also place tiles on the track to make camels bounce in extra space or go back. And if they bounce back, they go underneath. Basically, the camels stack up. And you bet on short term who's going to be in the lead at the end of this round. And also you bet long term who's going to be actually the one to win the race. And who's going to come dead last. And you bet on it, you earn money. Whoever gets the most money at the end of the game wins. It's a great game, easy to teach, fun theme, so even for people that don't want to get into super serious board games, this is a good one to show them, just because it's a fun theme. They'll have fun with it. Camel Up is 21. There we go, that was 30 to 21 of Liam's only 58 board games of all time. We'll catch you in the next one for 20 down to 11. Catch ya.